Welcome to our channel, Enigma of Erebus. Today we will tell you about the philosophy of Epicurus, one of the Greek philosophers. Origin, characteristics, representatives, and ideas of Epicureanism. Epicureanism originated from the philosophical teachings of Epicurus, who lived in Athens in the late 4th century BCE. Epicurus founded a school called the Jardín, where he and his students engaged in philosophical discussions. His teachings form a philosophical system that embraces the pursuit of pleasure and tranquility, ethical satisfaction, and happiness as its highest goods. Epicureanism was a philosophical system that emerged in the 4th century BC, in Athens. It was created by Epicuro de Samos, who taught his doctrine in a school called Jardín. The fundamental basis of his philosophy was the pursuit of happiness. To achieve this goal, Epicureanism promotes the need to strike a balance between the pleasures of the body and mind and the elimination of fears. Between the latter, he noted that the idea of fate, death, or the gods themselves gave way. For Epicurus, every element was made up of atoms, and men could perceive their forms and qualities using their senses. His followers were called Epicureans and should avoid pain and discomfort. Likewise, they had to move away from luxuries and excessive comfort and lead a life of harmony. One of the characteristics of this school was that it allowed any interested party, including women, to enter. Epicureanism, which some consider to be related to hedonism, had some important followers in ancient Rome. Among them, the poets Lucretius and Horace, whose poems can trace the theories of this current in their work. The doctrine of Epicureanism was taught by Epicurus of Samos, who also gave it its name. The philosopher was born in 341. And after passing through several places, he founded a school called Jardín. He developed his ideas there. Epicuro was born on the island of Samos in an Athenian family. His education was given by his father, his teacher, and various philosophers. When he was 18, he went to Athens to do military service. He was later reunited with his father in Colophon. In 311, he founded his first philosophical school on the island of Lesbos. Soon after, he served as principal of another school in Lampsacus, in what is now Turkey. The philosopher returned to Athens in 306. He soon began teaching his ideas to a group of followers. The chosen place was on the porch of Epicurus' house, a garden that gave the school its name. Unlike other philosophers, women could go to El Jardín to learn from the teacher. This caused many slanders about his activities. But Epicurus was very successful, and students from Asia Minor and the rest of Greece came to listen to him. In addition to teaching these courses, Epicurus wrote many works. According to historians, he left more than 300 treatises, although almost none of them survived when he died. The available information about the author comes from 3 different letters: a Herodoto on the theory of knowledge, a Herodoto to Pittacles on astrology and cosmology, a last to Meneceo on ethics. Also, some indirect notes about his teachings are preserved. Faced with much hedonism, Epicureanism did not focus the pursuit of pleasure exclusively on the body. Followers of this current gave greater importance to the mind. In addition, much of this school's definition of pleasure or happiness points to absence rather than presence. In this way, they saw pleasure as the absence of pain or any suffering, such as hunger or sexual tension. This was to achieve a perfect balance between body and mind that would provide peace or ataraxia. In a nutshell, Epicurus stated that this peace comes from the realm of fear, which is identified with the gods, death, and uncertainties about the future. The philosopher's goal was to eliminate these fears in order to be happy. Epicureanism thought that pleasures, and also suffering, were the result of taking or satisfying appetites. This doctrine distinguished between 3 kinds of pleasure. The first was natural and necessary. These included nourishment, shelter, and a sense of security. The following were natural but not necessary. In this group, they emphasized maintaining a pleasant conversation or sexual intercourse. Finally, he emphasized unnatural but necessary pleasures, such as the pursuit of power, fame, or money. Experts emphasize that Epicurus was not dualistic. Compared to Plato, for example, Epicurus did not believe that there was a difference between soul and body. Both were material and composed of atoms. This led him to distinguish between 2 other types of pleasure, different but unified, based on the soul and the body. the followers of the body were not the most important for the followers of this movement. Epicurus advocated a conscious balancing of these pleasures. So he said, you couldn't enjoy food if you didn't know the soul. On the other hand, there were pleasures of the soul. These are more enduring because they are more durable and have an effect on the body. The canonical is a part of philosophy devoted to analyzing knowledge and how man can attain it. Epicurus and his followers thought that the sensation perceived by our senses was the basis of all knowledge. Any of these sensations caused pleasure or pain in man, which in turn caused emotions, the basis of morality. The philosopher thought that there were so-called general ideas, which were sensations that were repeated many times and recorded in memory. One of his most well-known followers, Diogenes Laertius, also wrote about creative projections. In this way, it can be understood that there are elements, such as atoms, although they cannot be seen with the naked eye. According to Epicurus, reality consists of two basic elements. The first would be atoms, materials. The second would be the void, the space in which atoms move. The Epicureans thought that everything in the world was different combinations of atoms. For them, the same soul, although a special kind, was made up of atoms that were finer than those that were part of the body. But this did not mean that the soul ceased to be material. This school thought that when a person dies, the soul dies too. According to experts, Epicurus picked up this Democritus idea, although he changed much of his doctrine. The main difference is that he introduced an element of chance in the way atoms move, indicating that there is no determinism in their behavior, contrary to what Democritus said. In this respect, Epicurus always tried to put a lot of emphasis on freedom. He saw ethics as fundamental, and other issues depended on it. As already mentioned, ethics was the most important part of Epicurus' philosophy. It is the basis for achieving the Epicureans' goal, happiness based on ataraxia and the autonomy of reason. The ethics of this philosophical current was based on two opposing points: fear, which should be avoided, and pleasure, which is considered something valuable. In fact, Epicureanism was also called tetradrug, or medicine against the four fears that, according to the doctrine, are the most important: fear of gods, fear of death, pain and failure, fear of the search for the good. Despite naming the gods as the cause of one of these fundamental fears, experts claim that Epicurus was not an atheist. On the other hand, he thought that because they are so far away, they don't care what happens to people. According to the philosopher, this distance made it absurd to scare them. Regarding death, Epicurus said that there was no point in fearing it. In his own words, he explained the question by saying that death does not worry us, because as long as we exist, death is not here, and when it comes, we no longer exist. Finally, you should not be afraid of the future either, because the future is not entirely dependent on us. It is not entirely foreign, so we should not expect it to come as if it will never come. Epicurus' philosophy, unlike that of other schools, is not theoretical. The teachings were intended so that anyone who wanted them could practice the way they described to achieve happiness. It was about eliminating fears and living a joyful and full life. To achieve this, they used elements of empirical knowledge, atomistic physics, and a hedonistic morality. Epicurus' most famous followers were in ancient Rome. Among them, the poet Horatio, the author of the declaration Carpe Diem, take advantage of the day, Virgilio and Lucrecio. Historians describe Epicureanism as a typical Mediterranean doctrine with secular features and pagan points. Although the school of thought suffered a certain tribulation for 7 centuries after the death of its creator, it marked the end of the influence of the Middle Ages. Many of his writings were destroyed because of his sharp rejection of Christian ideas. The Christian vision of suffering collided completely with Epicurean philosophy. Only some followers of Platonism or Aristotelianism slightly combined some of his ideas, but with little success. Since very few of Epicurus's writings have survived, the work of some of his followers is essential for understanding his philosophy. Among them, the 2nd century Greek philosopher Diogenes de Anoanda, who propagated this thought. As part of his outreach, Diogenes ordered Epicurus to record some of his maxims on a large wall near the main market of the city of Anoanda, in what is today Turkey. The aim was for citizens to remember that they would not find happiness through shopping or consumerism. To be precise, the fragments found on this wall, destroyed by an earthquake, constitute one of the main sources for historians of Epicureanism. In them, there seems to be a part of his doctrine almost unknown to specialists, clinamen, deviants. Unfortunately, only a third of what was recorded on the wall has been recovered. Zeno was a philosopher born in the 1st century BC. See Greece, probably in the city of Sidon, today in Lebanon. He was a contemporary of Cicero, who wrote in his book On the Nature of the Gods that Zeno disdained other philosophers, including classics such as Socrates. After Epicurus, Zeno affirmed that happiness is enjoyed not only from present pleasure, much less from riches. For him, the hope that prosperity and pleasure would last was fundamental. It was about not looking to the future with fear. Epicurus's followers were not only among philosophers. There were other intellectuals who promoted his ideas in their own works, such as Quinto Horacio Flacco, one of the main poets of ancient Rome. Horacio, known for his satirical poetry, lived for several years in Athens, where he studied Greek and philosophy, especially Epicureanism. His work is characterized by reflection on the desirable. Apart from the repeated praise for a retired life, what he called Beatus ille, Horacio is known for creating a maxim that fits perfectly with Epicureanism. Carpe, which means to look at the day. Romano, like Horacio, Lucrecio was a philosopher and poet who lived between 99 AC and 55 AC. Only one text is known by this author, and it is called De Rerum Natura. In this work, in addition to the atomic physics of Democritus, he defends the teachings of Epicurus. Lucretius explained the movements and groups of atoms, but also pointed to the death of the soul. The author's aim, according to experts, was to free man from the fear of the gods and death. These fears were the main causes of unhappiness for the poet. Epicureanism is a philosophical school with deep reflections on the meaning of human life and happiness. Themes such as the pursuit of pleasure and tranquility, the value of natural pleasures, moral satisfaction, and friendship are central to Epicurean philosophy. While guiding individuals in the search for inner peace and happiness, Epicurus' teachings also emphasize simplicity and naturalness. Epicureanism has left a profound impact on many philosophers, writers, and thinkers throughout history. It continues to exist as an important. For more of this kind of content, you can subscribe to our channel and motivate us. Thank you. Have a great day.